My own motivation and discipline was supplemented by my parents' assistance, and they never were the ones driving things or pushing me, or if I didn't want to, they were never going to force me to do it. But my parents were great companions, and I had a sister who started to play, and so it became the family activity to go up to the schoolyard and kick off the wall, or my dad would throw me volleys and come up with different orders that I should do my touches in. And so what I had from them was really great companionship.
All right, awesome. Yael, welcome to the Strong Female Athlete podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I couldn't have thought of a better guest to have on, the strong female athlete, because you have been through an amazing soccer career at the pro level, the high college level, internationally as well. And you're still in the game, which is amazing as an entrepreneur, as a GM now, and also you're a parent. So just very exciting to talk to you today about just your journey with the game and just being able to be in it and impact the game as long as you have. So maybe let's just start with the past. What was it like growing up as a young girl soccer player, and how did you start to develop that passion knowing you wanted to pursue soccer?
Yeah, so I realize now, looking back, how influential my family was, and I think too the area of the country that I grew up in. So I grew up in kind of a suburb of New York City in northern New Jersey, and my parents are not soccer people. They're lifelong athletes, both long distance runners, so they understood the discipline of training and kind of like the methodical aspect of learning about your sport and setting goals and chipping away at it every day. And that was ingrained in me from a young age, but it wasn't soccer specifically. We did all kinds of sports. We were always outside. And then I just started playing soccer like a lot of people do, just because a friend in school played. And I didn't start at a crazy young age or anything like that. I think I was in second grade maybe. Um, and but from the moment I started, I did have the expertise of my parents in terms of how you should approach a sport and learning about a sport and the questions to ask. And I also realize now that I had wonderful coaches and mentors from a very young age who had a world view of the game and came from literally all over the world. I mean, I was raised in the game by people from Turkey, Bolivia, Peru, the Netherlands, England, and that I thought that was normal, but really I was exposed to such an amazing and exciting view of what the game is beyond just my experience playing, which I think is what really, at the end of the day, allowed me to love the sport. Because as a player, when you have a goal and you're so serious and you have all these ups and downs, it's easy to think on any given day, oh, it's not going well. Like maybe I should do something else. But I did really appreciate and love the game. I watched a lot of soccer, and I started to get a better idea of what I would need to do if I wanted to achieve the goals of playing at a really high level like I had. So I set those goals at a pretty young age, and I had wonderful support around me to where I thought it was normal to try to be a professional soccer player. That wasn't a crazy thing in my mind. And now that I look back, I realize it really wasn't normal at all. But the way I was raised made it seem totally normal, and that was something I could potentially do if I did all the right things and I stayed with it through the ups and downs. And I really am grateful for my upbringing in the game.
That's so amazing that you just had such good mentors and coaches along the way, and just such a nice variety of different schools of thought and how the game is played. And I'm sure that inspiration from them like motivated you to like want to do better. Did you get out there on your own, become friends with the ball, practice a lot on your own? Because I know like now a lot of coaches or maybe even parents kind of have to tell their kid to do it or nag them to do it. Was this something that you really took initiative on?
So I did, that was kind of my bread and butter. I think that's what allowed me to become a professional player. I will say that my own motivation and discipline was supplemented by my parents' assistance, and they never were the ones driving things or pushing me, or if I didn't want to, they were never going to force me to do it. But my parents were great companions, and I had a sister who started to play, and so it became the family activity to go up to the schoolyard and kick off the wall, or I worked on things with my parents. Like my dad would throw me volleys and come up with different orders that I should do my touches in. And so what I had from them was really great companionship. And I had the person who was going to come with me if I kind of didn't know if I was that into it that day, or if I was, you know, was feeling unmotivated, I'd have my dad saying, "Well, you've trained every day for the last however many days. Don't let today ruin your streak. Let's go do it anyway." Or it's raining outside. How about we go find a parking garage or a racquetball court? And so that was hugely important to maintaining my focus and discipline. And so what I'd say is I was always very driven from a young age. I definitely put in the work myself, but I didn't do it on my own. And I had the support and guidance of people who could keep me on track when I maybe could have gone a different way or just decided I didn't feel like it. And there were a lot of days in there where it was challenging and it was difficult to go spend that time with the ball. And I recognize how artfully my parents kind of supported but didn't urge, and they were always there to make it fun or make it a game out of it. And they did that for my sister and I, and it definitely impacted our ability to put in tons and tons of hours with the ball, whereas otherwise there might have been gaps in that.
I really like how your parents made it really fun and they participated in it instead of telling you, "Hey, you need to do this." And your dad got out there and threw you different volleys. I think that's such great advice for the parents listening is to just, you don't have to be a really good soccer player. Just get out there, especially if your kid's a lot younger, because I think now a lot of parents tend to outsource to private skills trainers as young as age 7 or 8. I don't know how you feel about that. Is that too young for that age? Should it be more play based in the backyard? What are your thoughts on that?
I really think it's personality based. I had people at a pretty young age, maybe starting more like 10, 11, 12, who would do some individual sessions with me and teach me things. So my parents couldn't teach me. They didn't know anything about the game. But at the same time, you don't need that. And if a player doesn't have the mindset where they want that individual attention and focus, then they shouldn't do it yet. And so, I was very focused. I liked that. I liked counting things and recording scores, and I was pretty serious in that way. So, doing individual sessions like that was good. That's definitely not for everyone. That can be too much pressure and too much of, one person watching you. And if you mess up, it's intimidating, and not everybody wants that. But I will say, I just want to reiterate, the point about the parent involvement is, yeah, my parents all you have to do as a parent is count someone's juggles or go and find a YouTube video with them that's showing a demo and try it yourself. Like my dad at one point had a juggling record and it wasn't good, but it was fun because it was an acknowledgement of the process of trying to figure out what you needed to practice and practicing it and working on it. And a parent can help record things. They can help hold a timer and do a countdown. You don't have to know anything about the sport to help facilitate work. And it doesn't only have to be either super serious regimented training or fun and games. There is a fun intersection of trying to get better at something in a methodical way, but making it light and exciting and buying someone a jersey that their favorite player when they hit their record and things like that that make it seem like a fun thing to do.
It seems like just the play with, like, your parents and getting out there and practicing was such a good memory that really stands out. Is there anything else when you look back on being a young girl soccer player that you're just like, "Oh, those were such good times?"
I mean, I have many many of them. I really I always go back to, the coaches and mentors I had. I also was surrounded by really great teammates, and I played with a variety of different teams and players, which it was really difficult for me because I was always outside my comfort zone. I never had my go-to team I was on all the time, but I got to play. I was the only girl on an all boys team and I got to guest play all the time. And I do have really great memories of driving to tournaments with my parents or honestly the bonding with my family of going to all these different events and going to a new team's practice session and then like reviewing with my dad in the car on the way back the new things I learned or what the players' names were and things like that. It was a really fun exploratory time in my life and my soccer career where I just had this amazing variety and I had my family there alongside me to go figure it out with me. So there was always something new, always something challenging me, and at the same time, a lot of support, which made it really fun and exciting.
Now, when was the shift when you were starting to think, okay, I want to play at a high level. I want to play in college. I want to go pro? Was it when you got into high school? Was it sooner than that? And kind of what was that conversation like with your parents? Did you initiate it? Hey guys, just want to take a quick moment to shout out our sponsor, Simply Faster, and one of my favorite speed timing systems from them, the Freelap. I use it for my own sprint training as well as for my athletes, and they love it. It's super easy to set up, you can take it to the field on your own, and you can get accurate speed times to track your progress. Check the Freelap link in the caption below to start adding timing into your speed sessions. If you know me, you know I love my Freelap. If you're serious about speed, it's time to start timing.
So it was really early on for me. I think I was 9. And basically, how it started was my teacher in school would ask all the kids what we wanted to be when we grew up. And the boys would say they want to be baseball players or basketball players. So I was like, oh, I play soccer. I'll be a soccer player, not really knowing what that was. But I did state from that time that I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I think it was said in like, well, this is my interest, so I'll do this as a job. Like I think now of how my daughter talks about what she wants to be when she grows up, and she's like, I'll be a teacher. It was the same kind of thing. I just thought that was a job I could do. Um, but with that, my parents really helped me to understand, what does that mean? Okay, you're saying this thing. Well, let's watch some professional soccer players. Let's go try to see the 1999 Women's World Cup team train before the big opening game. Like, let's do all these things to have an understanding of what that looks like and what type of expertise you need to develop to be able to do that. So it did become serious pretty early, but it definitely started by me just saying something as a young kid, and then it became more part of my identity. But from the beginning, it was never a joke, and it was never something that I thought I wouldn't actually do, which now I realize is a very unique mindset. But there was really never a doubt in my mind that I would try to follow this path of being the most elite I could be. And at times when I got difficult feedback, or I didn't make a team, or a coach told me, oh, you're not good enough at this or whatever, it did really really upset me, because I would internalize it as maybe they're saying I can't be as good as what my goals are saying. But I think the good lessons I had were that you can always find another way. It's like one person's opinion doesn't have to define you. So I understood that to be feedback and not like the end all be all of my forever evaluation. If you don't make one team, you're not just totally never going to be able to achieve your goals in the game. So I had to layer on the understanding of that mindset as I got a little bit older and what it meant. But yeah, I did have that goal from a very young age.
Now, as far as college recruiting, when you're getting into high school, did you always have your eyes set on UNC? Were you getting a lot of other offers from other schools? And how did you make that decision that you wanted to be a Tar Heel?
So my early goal was to be a Tar Heel and then play for the U.S. Women's National Team. And that was from a very young age. Those were the things that defined when I said professional player, that's actually what I meant, those two things. Um, when it got closer to the time when I had to seriously consider where I wanted to go play in college, and the path then was very different than it is now. Everyone who wanted to be a top player played in college. I actually now, if I think about it, if things were like they are now, I probably would not have, because I ended up getting very, very stressed out by the decision. I didn't love UNC at the time when I really started to consider it. I also visited some of the other schools. To be honest, I didn't really like any of the schools that much that I visited. And I visited a lot of the top schools just to see, and I was very stressed by it. I did not want to go to college. I did. And then I ended up kind of having the feeling, through a lot of tears, honestly, that if I went to any of the other schools besides UNC, I would always wonder, what if I had gone to UNC? And I would never think that. If I went to UNC, I would never think that about any of the other schools I visited, and which was true. So I very reluctantly decided to go to UNC. I ended up absolutely loving my experience, and it changed my life. But that is why I went there. It wasn't actually, I haven't told that many people this. It wasn't actually because I was so excited and overjoyed to go to UNC. It was because I really thought that I might regret it if I didn't, and I wouldn't feel the same way about any of my other choices. So I reluctantly went to play college soccer, and then it ended up being amazing.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really
I don't think
crazy.
anyone knows that. I actually haven't shared that anymore. Now I'm kind of scared it's going to be out there, but whatever.
Well, if you need me to edit it out, we can.
Okay.
No,
People
but
can
I
know.
think
You can know the truth.
No, but I think a lot of girls can relate and parents the process is really stressful with college recruiting, and back then it was stressful, but we're looking at today with all the ID camps, the roster limits now. I mean, it has gotten crazy, and then NIL is a whole other ball game, but that's another podcast. But yeah, I think that's so interesting that you made that jump and you're like, all right, well, we're going to do this. And it ended up being a really great decision for you. So, what did you kind of learn at UNC, not just from like a soccer development standpoint, but how did it really build you into the person you are today with all the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot say enough about the answer to that question. I at UNC, first for me on a personal level, it was the first time I got to be around peers who were as dedicated, as driven, and as ambitious as I was. And that was a really life-changing experience for me because I was used to being the outlier. I jumped from team to team. I was the only girl here. I played up an age group here. I went to guest play for a team and I never really fit in. They were never my people. My friends in school weren't as serious about what they were doing as I was. So I never felt like I had peers who understood me or who were really I could really be close with in that way. And so from that perspective, it was unbelievable for me to feel that there was this group of women out there who were just like me and they cared as much as I did. They cried when they had disappointments too. And I could just feel I felt at home being myself. And then to be part of a culture like the UNC culture and with Anson Dorrance as the leader and the coach, I learned so much about being part of a winning culture and leadership and how you can combine ruthlessly wanting to win with also focusing on aspects of character and doing it in a way that shows good character and with integrity and all of those things. And for me, I mean, it's one of the most important experiences I could have in my life is to be surrounded by a group of people who would do anything to win and who are so competitive and push me to be competitive and pushed me in so many ways to get better, but also to where there was a level of the human side of things that Anson appreciated and brought out in us and he never let the competitive part on the field be more important than the human aspect. And that for me was one of the most important life lessons. It really changed my life in a lot of ways to experience that type of leadership.
I think when a lot of people look at the UNC program and Anson's leadership, they just see, okay, these are a bunch of high level soccer players who are super competitive, but not a lot of people know about that human aspect to what he's teaching this team. So, what was one of the most important lessons that Anson taught you, or maybe even some of the other girls and some of your closest friends on the team?
I'm trying to think of what comes top of mind because there's so many. There were a few things that really stood out. One was, Anson is a really real person. He is very honest about the world and he's able to articulate it in a way that's truly pretty beautiful. Like he would cry in front of us if something happened in his personal life that was scary or disappointing. We during my sophomore year, we had a kind of a guest honorary player who was undergoing cancer treatment and she ended up passing away. And we as a team, he opened the door for us as a team to experience something so painful and so deeply important beyond the game. And he genuinely appreciated the fact that, like, as young people and high level athletes, we were experiencing the impact of our performance beyond winning the game. And so that experience honestly was I think it was life changing for everyone involved. But Anson he owns that from his example as well. He is a really real person. He's okay to be angry, to be sad, like all the real life emotions. And he shares that with other people and he lets other people know very directly how they are impacting things. And, another way in which I think was really powerful this came out was our team. It's not even my team anymore. That team had in the past core values, a set of core values, and it was kind of a funny joke, but we had to memorize these quotes associated with the core values, which of course at the time was really annoying because we had our schoolwork and all these other things, but I remember a lot of them now. And we would rank each other and rate each other based on how much our teammates embodied the values. So we would get feedback from our teammates on, did we actually care about the team? Were we good vocal leaders? Did we lead by example? Were we classy when things didn't go our way? Were we respectful? All the, I don't actually remember the full list, but there was a list of, 10 to 12 values, and we would get feedback and be able to give feedback to our peers about that. And the level of transparency in owning who you are, both as a player and also as a person, and just being able to and needing to confront and give feedback to others on how you are viewed as a human being, was something about the environment that I really took a lot away from. So there was this part of the UNC system, though, was it manifested itself in every aspect of what we did, so much beyond the playing side of things, that I do think it's surprising to people, because you look at it, you're like, oh, the team just like ruthlessly wins all the time and they probably don't care about anything else. But actually, there was such a strong culture of winning that we could focus on these other things, and it made it so much stronger. And yeah, I've not been in a culture and environment like that since. And I understand now, after working to build other cultures and being part of other teams, how rare and how special it is to be able to build that.
Yeah, I think it's just such a good example the UNC program has is you can merge that competitive winning spirit to sports with the human component and building character and the life lessons that sport teaches. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's only about the life lessons. And yes, it is. But at the end of the day, if you're a competitive athlete, you want to win. Like, and I'm sure you are competitive too. And now you are in the work that you're doing, and you have to really be on top of things and be ahead. So let's kind of shift into the work you're doing today as a GM. Are there any leadership things you learned from your other mentors or coaches growing up that you're taking into your culture today with Gotham FC?
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I really try to take pieces from a lot of the environments I was in and the coaches and mentors I had into my work now. And it's been really interesting at Gotham to try to create a culture. Most places where you step in the, well, everywhere has a culture. I'd say at Gotham, there was a historic culture that we are actively trying to change. And so we have the opportunity to try to leave behind what we don't want to be and embody what we do want to be. And I recognize how strong a lot of the other cultures I was part of were through this process, because the culture isn't what write on the chalkboard or on the dry erase board or have hanging up. It's actually what people do every day and how they feel about what they do. And that's much harder to do than writing up some values and your vision and mission and all that. So at Gotham, we recently went through the process of working on our mission, vision, values. And the key part of the process is, how do we make this unique to us, and how do we actually make it live beyond what we're going to write down. And I think of a lot of the environments I've been in and what they taught me, and some key messages that are embodied in who we are trying to be at Gotham as well, are the idea of grittiness, and like, we're going to try to do something extraordinary, but we don't shy away from the ugly moments, the dirty moments, the bad weather, I grew up playing with some of the best players in the world and coaches who had played in World Cups, and they would show up at the field with like their cleats in a little plastic bag, and that stuff didn't matter. Like, the what mattered was the stuff that really matters, like the way in which you approach your craft and the striving for excellence and how you do what you need to do. And the shiny stuff or the fluffy stuff, like that, we could do without. And the Gotham players especially, but now also the staff, really does embody a level of grit. And whatever happens, we're focused on our task. We're going to do our very best, and all the other stuff is going to come up, and we're going to deal with it and kind of keep moving on. And I think there's that, as well as the concept of being bold or being unafraid to try things, both as a player, but also just in terms of thinking outside the box on creating a vision from nothing. I grew up in this area of the country where people are on the forefront of what they're doing. And it was not weird to me that at the time, people who were leading in their industry were part of the soccer community, and people who, yeah, had played in World Cups or on the highest stage in the game would come and train in my environments and be around. So being bold and being unafraid to say a big vision or say a goal and to go after it, and be okay to say, hey, we didn't do well today or this season or whatever, and we failed, and being transparent about that and really okay to shoot really high is part of what's important for us at Gotham. So we are really unafraid to be incredibly ambitious, to have a big vision, to state those things openly, to admit honestly when we haven't, when we haven't hit the mark, and to be gritty and recognize like sometimes it's kind of ugly and not perfect and it doesn't look pretty along the way, but that doesn't take away from the value and the quality of what we do. And those are definitely all lessons that were instilled in me in my youth environments and the coaches and just the way I was raised in the game.
It seems like you've just really come full circle with everything. You had that huge dream when you were 9 years old that you wanted to be on the national team and play at the high level, and now here you are. It's the same thing, but just a different environment. Let's shoot for the stars. Let's aim high, and we'll figure it out as we go. And I think you mentioned that leaders can really just kind of adapt on the fly. That's really key. And your roster is amazing this year. I actually had Sarah Shupansky on the podcast last year. She's like the definition of grit, so good choice there. But yeah, it's really cool to hear that that's your mission. So really excited to see more. Now you're also a mom. I know your kids are really young, so they're not quite in the system yet, but you've been through a lot. So I really want you to just close out with some advice for the parents listening on just going through this journey. If they have really young kids just kind of starting or in the thick of it, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so I'm about to experience this as a parent myself, so I cannot say I'm an expert, but I will say I've been the recipient of amazing parental support, and I do now have two kids who have shown an early interest and a joy in the game. And I think the most important thing is the joy in it. Like if soccer is a chore, if it's what you're pushing as a parent, it's not going to last. And so I am really focused on fostering positive experiences with my young soccer players as they hopefully become soccer players. But if it's something else, I hope I can take that lesson into some, whatever they're interested in. But I think it's the support and the companionship that matters the most. Being there with your player to recognize when they've made improvements, to watch the reps. You definitely don't have to be an expert to take them to a professional soccer game and enjoy it with them. Your facilitation of those moments and creating the memories with them will help them to foster a love of the game and appreciation for the hard parts that come along with it. If the good parts are really enjoyable and you can celebrate them as a family, then all the natural hard parts become totally worth it. So definitely fostering the joy and the love and making it something you do as a family will only really help your player continue to play and continue to enjoy the game. And that's what I think a lot of parents have an objective for their player that maybe the player doesn't have themselves. And really, your player is only going to go as far as their own objective and their own desire to continue to play the sport and be involved in the sport. So nothing you can do for them is as important as trying to create longevity in their desire to be involved in the sport. And even if they're not going to be a professional soccer player, they might be a lifelong fan of the game. They might coach their kids' team one day. They might be an owner of a team. They might do media involving soccer, and you don't know what it can become, but they won't do any of those things if they don't enjoy the sport. So I think that's the most important thing you can pass on is your companionship and your desire to support them and having fun.
That's really brilliant. And I think you mentioned like that longevity is so important with whatever they do, whether it's soccer, maybe they do golf or dance, like whatever it is, they have to be able to sustain it and enjoy it. And you're just such a perfect example that you've loved the game since a really young age. You're still in the game making an impact. And I think like when a lot of professional players get to that level, some of them are just burned out and they're done. And they're like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And the fact that you're still in it doing amazing work, I mean, it seems now you just still love it so much, despite it's still going to have challenges, but you know how to handle them because you always embrace them along the way. So I think it's awesome you're in this for the long haul.
Yeah, thanks. No, I really credit my parents and my coaches when I was young for instilling in me the habits and the enjoyment of the sport. So hopefully everyone listening can do the same for young one out there.
Yeah, Yale, thank you so much. This was a really great discussion, and I'm sure the parents will really enjoy it. So, if you guys really like the episode, please share with someone who you think needs to hear this message, whether it's another parent or a coach. Just get the word out there. I don't really care about the likes, just share, get the message going. Let's leave an impact. So, thank you, Yale, and everyone. I'll see you on the next episode.